yeah, we got a good one today, gamers. This is my current favorite PvE build for this patch. One build for all your needs, and it's just stupid good, fun to play, and just awesome visually. We're taking some pages from these playbooks here from some previous builds and supercharging it with subclassing and some new gear. You can do everything PvE-wise with exception of super sweaty trial achievement stuff, push far into the archive, and harder vet dungeon solos. But I'll be working on a vet DLC solo version on stream, so we'll see about that. And adding a Maelstrom two-handed back bar would greatly elevate things DPS-wise, so higher end trial stuff may be possible to a degree as well, but I haven't messed with that at all yet. I was just too excited to get this out for everyone. I know a lot of people are going to love this. All right, let's get this thing going. I'll be moving quick, but I have the written guide up and available as well for you now over at the GameRoom.tv. Let's go. For this build, we're using the Sorcerer, Nightblade, and Templar classes, with having the base class as a Sorcerer, both for the class script we're using, and I'm still playtesting the Vet DLC dungeon solo setup in its very early stages. And I don't know if the Sorcerer class set of Beacon will be used or not, but if it does, that's a potential second benefit for you for the base class of Sorcerer. You can be any stamina-based race you like. I was actually accidentally a High Elf in most of my testing because I have an amazing situational awareness, but my two suggestions are Dark Elf or Khajiit. Dark Elf is going to give you slightly more min-max damage in a balanced group scenario and on the dummy, and Khajiit is going to give you better RNG damage at times with this crit damage increase. Plus, the sustain passive is very good for this on a Khajiit. I would say probably the most well-rounded race is a Khajiit, but honestly, any stamina-based race is fine. Like I said, I did most of my playtesting as a High Elf on accident. And then we put all 64 points into stamina. Let's take a quick look behind the curtain real quick and check out the engine behind the whole build. First, we're using the Storm Curse set, which has a very unique 5 set that says when you deal shock damage, you have 15% chance to basically proc more shock damage. Then we combine that with the Sorcerer class script using No Pets, which says when you deal damage with the scribed ability, you deal shock damage to the enemies within 8 meters of the target. Then we wrap all that together with the Traveling Knife scribing ability and the multi-target script, turning it into a mini frag grenade that explodes on enemies. And you'll end up with one of the most satisfying ability packages in the game, both visually and damage wise, tossing out electricity infused frag grenades, exploding on everything, and then sprinkling in a touch of the Sorcerer Energize passive, increasing both your physical and shock damage by 5%, which is the majority of all of this damage. Just check this out. I mean, is that not just completely badass? Last, we throw on the new Tideborn set, which juices all of this damage even further by 12% and has great stats, especially for solo stuff with the extra penetration. For the solo version, we put it all together like this. Storm Curse is a light set, and we want as many medium pieces as possible. So we put that on the belt, jewelry, and weapon spot, with medium Tideborn around that and a medium helm with a line of pin like Krogs. All body pieces are in Divines with the max stamina and chance. Our jewelry, including Oaken Soul, is in Bloodthirsty with increased physical harm and chance. And then we're running 2 maces, both sharpened, since we don't have a major breach in the build. For enchants, you want Absorb Stamina, and then you have a flex spot. If you just want to go all in on the Stormblade lightning theme, you can go Charged, but it doesn't proc Storm Curse. I think Flame makes a little more sense here for a bit more boss damage, since the AoE damage of the build is already fully busted. But it's up to you. You can run really whatever you want here. The difference will be small. Because of the nature of this build, Reaving Blows is really impactful here, giving you quite a lot of healing, especially in any multi-mob scenario. And then Bloody Renewal is going to be very impactful for you here for sustain. Here are your abilities, which I'll break down for you next. And then we have the Serpent Mundus RTM Takeaway Food, or the cheaper version Dubious Camoran Throne, and then tripods. With this food and this exact setup, you'll be about 22k HP on a race with no HP like a Dark Elf. I soloed everything fine with it, but you may not be comfortable with that amount of health. In that case, just move some of the stamina attribute points over to health to a comfortable amount for you. Anything more than 25, 26k HP or so, and it's really kind of overkill for what this build is intended to be soloing. You can take this into dungeons with a group exactly as it is and destroy everything, but you can squeeze out quite a lot more DPS wise with it with some small changes. Mostly the usual stuff. Here's kind of a mixed bag list of changes between solo and parsing in dungeons or trials for you if you decide you want to do some, none, or all of it. If parsing, replace Reaving Blows CP with Exploiter, but honestly, you can just leave Reaving Blows for dungeons and be fine. Plus, the self-healing will make you almost almost never have to rely on a healer along with the other healing aspects of the build. If you're parsing, replace Fighting Finesse with Wrathful Strikes. Otherwise, leave Fighting Finesse for group content. The difference is so you minimize the loss of stats going over the crit damage cap on the trial dummy, and the likelihood a pug group is optimized is very small. Swap maces for daggers using double charged with the flame and poison enchant. Use Lavafoot Soup for max DPS for parsing, and then swap Krogs for a medium slime crawl helm. A light helm will give you perfect min-max stats, but medium makes it sustainable at a very small DPS loss, if that's an issue for you. And then swap the Serpent Mundus for Thief. All the gear, traits, and enchants minus the weapons stay the same. So kind of usual stuff here, going from solo to group content if you want to get more out of it. And all of that together when parsing is well over 100k DPS single target with an insane AoE kit using the same buttons. I only did a handful of parses as well, so this can probably get a little higher chasing crit RNG, or potentially a lot higher with a different bar setup, such as dropping Boundless Storm for a Nightblade execute. Lots of options in there for you to play with. For abilities, let's cover Traveling Knife first. We're using the multi-target script, turning it into a mini frag grenade, the class mastery script, helping spread the shock damage, and then you have a couple of options for whatever you're interested in on the third script. Lifesteal never hurts for anything, and it's what I used for everything. Expedition will give you both major and minor expedition in the build, making you crazy fast running around if you want that. Maim is an option to reduce some incoming damage, but it's really kind of unnecessary. You're going to have the concussion status effect all over the place, applying minor vulnerability, so the vulnerability script has some lost value there. And then Berserk Force and the remaining major buffs are redundant with Oaken Soul. So your two main options here are Lifesteal and Expedition, really. A side note here, you can go off balance with the Exploiter CP to ensure it's always proccing in a timely manner, but you sacrifice the utility aspect of the other two options, and we have plenty of damage. However, if you're running in a group of friends and are interested in optimizing a bit, this could be a good way for you to provide some utility for the group, allowing others to safely run Exploiter as well, and then free up potential bar spots for others. Or you could just do it for yourself if wanted. It's up to you, but I ran Lifesteal with everything, and I recommend that for at least the solo aspect of things. It's not a ton of healing, but it's also not zero, and every bit helps. Traveling Knife is one of my most favorite abilities in all of ESO, and was the engine behind all of the Bladesinger builds on the channel. It's a hybrid melee ranged ability, allowing you to dance around the area in and out of mechanics as wanted or needed. And it's a weapon ability, so it will apply your enchant. So you're able to keep up the vast majority of your damage at all times, unless you just back way up out of range. But its range is 15 meters, which is a really long distance. This spammable will be lobbing electricity-infused grenades exploding for enormous amounts of damage on groups. Next, we have Crit Surge. This is your primary self-heal. It has a super long duration of 33 seconds, so virtually zero micromanaging of it. Boundless Storm. This is going to give you a major expedition for 4 seconds, making you super fast, and then turn you into a ball of lightning, which will proc your Storm Curse set on surrounding enemies. Lightning Flood. This is fantastic for the build in a few ways. One, it's an AoE shock ability, but it ticks every 1 second, so a chance to proc the Storm Curse set every single second on every mob it's hitting. And it gives you your own synergy for more shock damage and more sustain from the Undaunted command passives, which can be impactful. This is one of the abilities you do not want to remove from your bards if you make personal changes. Next, we have the Nightblade Merciless Resolve ability. You want to use this at 10 stacks, which knocks you down to 5 stacks, and then you build back up to 10 with your light weaving. Try not to double tap it, lowering to 0 stacks other than the final few moments of a boss kill or something. It's going to keep your weapon damage boosted, increasing your AoE damage, and provide a huge increase to DPS and single target scenarios. Matter of fact, it's your #1 single target damage source. Also, this is going to give you an enormous burst heal every use when in melee range. So it can also be used as an emergency burst heal as well, if ever needed, at any stack amount above 5. And then end cap to increase your boss damage and passive crit rating from the Nightblade passives. If doing mostly AoE stuff like Skyreach or something, you can also use Crescent Sweep or the other morph if you want for even sillier AoE. But mostly we're using the Templar Adric Spear Tree for the passives for 6% more weapon damage and then free burning light damage. And then even more crit damage in live content if slotting Sweep. Playstyle is super simple. Keep Storm and Storm Surge rolling. Wait a second. This is the first time I'm realizing these two going together like that with Storm Surge. That's pretty cool. Drop Flood on enemies, spam your knife, use Resolve at 10 stacks on chunkier targets and bosses, and use end cap on cooldown other than when spamming AoE on groups. If you have major stamina problems and you are rolling your tripods and taking synergies, then you aren't using Flood on cooldown or reliably building Resolve stacks with light attacks and using it every 5 to 6 globals. Resolve costs Magicka, so it has a fairly big impact on stamina use over time with it being used so often. All in all, super simple, but extremely effective and stylish. You're going to be crushing solo content and dominating things like group dungeons. And that's it, gamers. Too easy. I'll leave you with some gameplay so you can see it in action. Let me know if you have any questions. Thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful day.